I arrived at my lakeside vacation home after 6 months away. I unlocked the door and froze. Every wall had been stripped and covered with gaudy, expensive designer wallpaper in jarring patterns that clashed horribly. My cozy retreat looked like a tacky showroom. My phone rang. It was my younger sister, Andrea. Before I could speak, Andrea laughed and said, "Surprise! I've been staying here, and that old wallpaper was hideous, so I upgraded it. You owe me $4,500. I'll text you my payment app." Then she hung up. My hands were shaking as I stared at my phone. $4,500? For wallpaper I never asked for? I walked slowly through my home, taking in the damage with each step. The living room walls were covered in metallic gold geometric patterns that hurt my eyes. The bedroom had enormous pink and purple flowers that made the space feel like it was closing in. The kitchen, my favorite room with its soft cream walls, now screamed with bright turquoise and orange stripes. Every single room had been violated with different expensive wallpaper. Nothing matched. Nothing made sense. It looked like a design showroom had exploded. I opened the hall closet and found women's clothes I didn't recognize. Andrea's clothes. In the bathroom, her toiletries lined the counter. The refrigerator was full of food, fresh groceries, meal prep containers with Andrea's name on them. This wasn't a quick visit. She had been living here. I walked into the guest bedroom and stopped cold. Andrea's belongings were everywhere. Her shoes lined up by the bed, her laptop on the desk. Mail addressed to her at my address sat in a pile on the nightstand. I picked up the top envelope, an electric bill from 2 months ago, another envelope, a credit card statement from 3 months ago, my vacation home address, Andrea's name. My chest tightened. I had asked Andrea to check on the house 6 months ago when I went on an extended work assignment overseas. She was supposed to water the plants and collect the mail for 1 weekend. 1 weekend. That was it. I pulled out my phone and called her back. She answered on the first ring, her voice bright and cheerful. "So, do you love it?" she asked. I worked really hard on picking the perfect patterns for each room. "Andrea, what is going on?" My voice came out harder than I intended. "Why are your clothes here? Why is there mail with your name at this address?" "Oh, that." She laughed like it was nothing. "Well, you weren't using the place. I needed somewhere to stay. My apartment lease ended, and I was between jobs, so I figured why not? You have this whole house just sitting empty. You've been living here?" I could barely get the words out. "For how long?" "I don't know, like 8 months, maybe a little more. Time flies." Her tone was so casual, so unbothered. Anyway, the wallpaper was seriously depressing, Mary. That beige was bringing me down. I needed something with personality. So I hired a designer and we picked out these amazing patterns. Cost a fortune, but it was worth it. Your property value probably went up. 8 months. She had been living in my house for 8 months without telling me. "Andrea, I asked you to check on the house for 1 weekend. 1. You can't just move into someone's home without permission." "Permission?" She scoffed. "You're my sister. I didn't think I needed written permission to crash at your place. Besides, I've been taking care of everything. Paying the utilities, keeping it clean. Well, before the renovation mess, anyway, you should be thanking me." "Thanking you?" My voice rose. "You destroyed my walls and now you want me to pay you for it?" "I didn't destroy anything. I improved it. And yes, you need to pay me. I used my credit card for all of this." The wallpaper alone was $3,000. Installation was another $1,000. The designer consultation was $500. "I'm actually cutting you a deal by not charging you for my project management time." My phone buzzed. A text from Andrea. An itemized bill with photos of receipts. Wallpaper, installation, designer fees, even charges for tools and supplies. It totaled $4,500 exactly. "I'm not paying this, Andrea. You need to move out. Today, right now." She laughed again, that same dismissive sound that made my blood pressure spike. "Move out? Mary, I've been here for 8 months. I have tenant rights now. You can't just kick me out because you're mad about some wallpaper. That's illegal." "Tenant rights?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're not a tenant. You're a guest who overstayed. Actually, in this state, after 30 days of continuous residence, I have established tenancy. Look it up. You want me to leave? You have to formally evict me. That takes months. And you still owe me for the improvements I made to your property. This is insane. No, this is the law. I'll give you until tomorrow to send the money. If you don't, I'm taking you to small claims court. I have all the receipts. I have proof. I improved your property. A judge might even make you pay more for the hassle you're putting me through. She hung up before I could respond. I stood in the middle of my ruined living room, trying to process what had just happened. My sister had been squatting in my home for 8 months. She had destroyed my walls. And now she was threatening to sue me for money I didn't owe her while claiming she had legal rights to stay in my house. I looked around at the garish wallpaper, at her belongings scattered throughout my space, at the mail that proved she had been treating this as her permanent address for months. This wasn't just about wallpaper anymore. This was something much worse. The next morning, I was sitting in a lawyer's office at 8:30, the first appointment they had available. My lawyer, Patricia Hayes, was a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in property law. I showed her everything: the photos of the wallpaper, the text from Andrea, the itemized bill, the mail addressed to Andrea at my vacation home. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "The bad news first," she said. "Your sister might be right about the tenancy issue. In our state, if someone has been living at a property for more than 30 days with the owner's knowledge or implied consent, they can be considered a tenant even without a formal lease. But I didn't give her consent to live there. I asked her to check on the place for 1 weekend. Did you ever explicitly tell her to leave? Send her a notice to vacate? Anything in writing?" I shook my head. I was overseas. I had no idea she was even there. She never told me she moved in. "That helps your case," Patricia said. "But we still might need to go through formal eviction proceedings. That typically takes 60 to 90 days in this county." 60 to 90 days? She could stay in my house for 3 more months? Possibly. As for the wallpaper bill, you're under no obligation to pay for improvements you didn't authorize. That's clear-cut. But she could still file in small claims court, and you'd have to defend yourself. It costs money and time even if you win. I felt sick. So what do I do? First, go to the property. Document everything. Take photos, videos. If she's still there, tell her formally that she needs to vacate. Have a witness if possible. Then we'll file for eviction, and you can decide if you want to pursue charges for the unauthorized modifications. 2 hours later, I pulled into the driveway of my vacation home. Andrea's car was there and another car I didn't recognize, a newer model truck with mud on the tires. I used my key to enter. The living room looked the same, terrible wallpaper glaring at me. But now there were beer cans on the coffee table and pizza boxes stacked by the couch. "Andrea?" I called out. In here, her voice came from the kitchen. I walked in and stopped. Andrea was there, wearing my favorite robe, drinking coffee from my mug. And sitting at my kitchen table was a man I had never seen before. He was big, over 6 feet tall, with a sleeve of tattoos and an expression that made me instantly uncomfortable. "Mary, this is Derek." "Derek, my sister Mary." Andrea gestured between us like we were at a dinner party. Derek nodded but didn't smile. "So you're the landlord?" "I'm not a landlord. This is my house. Who are you?" "I'm Andrea's boyfriend. I live here." My head was spinning. "You live here?" "For about 5 months now," Andrea said cheerfully. "Derek moved in after we started dating. He's been helping with the rent." "There is no rent," I said slowly, "because this isn't a rental property. It's my vacation home." Derek stood up, and I instinctively took a step back. He was intimidating without even trying. "Look, Andrea told me you were cool with this arrangement. We've been keeping the place nice, paying the bills. If there's suddenly a problem, that's between you two. There's a problem because neither of you have permission to be here." Andrea rolled her eyes. "Mary, stop being dramatic. You weren't using it. We needed a place. It all worked out." "Worked out? You destroyed my walls." "I improved them. And I already told you, you owe me for that." She pulled out her phone. Actually, since you're being difficult about this, I've been doing research. I have established tenancy here. Look. She showed me her phone screen. Some legal website. After 30 days of continuous residence with the owner's knowledge or implied consent, I have tenant rights. You never told me to leave. That's implied permission. If you want us out, you have to formally evict us. That takes months, and during that time, we can stay right here. She looked so smug, so satisfied with herself. I'm telling you now, you both need to leave. Today. Derek moved closer to me. Not threatening exactly, but definitely making his presence known. That's not how this works. Andrea's right. We know our rights. You want us gone? Get a court order. Fine. My voice was shaking. I'll get a court order. But you're not staying here another day. Actually, we are, Andrea said. In fact, if you try to force us out, we can call the cops on you for illegal eviction. Then you'll really have a problem. I couldn't believe this was happening. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. If they wouldn't leave, the police would make them. Within 15 minutes, 2 officers arrived. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. This was my house. My sister had overstayed. She had no lease. She had damaged my property, and now she was refusing to leave. The officers listened, then talked to Andrea and Derek. Andrea showed them the mail addressed to her, the utility bills she had paid, her driver's license listing this address. She was prepared for this. The older officer turned to me, his expression sympathetic but firm. Ma'am, I understand your frustration, but this is a civil matter. If she's been living here for 8 months and has established residency, we can't forcibly remove her without an eviction order from a judge. But it's my house. I understand, but without a formal eviction proceeding, our hands are tied. You'll need to file with the court. In the meantime, she has the right to stay here. This is insane. I'm sorry. That's the law. I'd suggest you contact a lawyer and start the eviction process. Until then, there's nothing we can do. The officers left. Andrea and Derek stood in my kitchen, looking victorious. I felt helpless, angry, and completely trapped. I left before I said something I would regret. I sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to calm down, trying to think clearly. That's when I remembered something. 2 years ago, after a break-in scare in the neighborhood, I had installed security cameras, 3 of them. 1 covering the front door, 1 in the living room, and 1 in the kitchen. They recorded to cloud storage. I grabbed my laptop from the passenger seat and logged into the security camera account. 8 months of footage. If Andrea had been planning this, if she had been lying, there would be evidence. I started scrolling through the recordings, month by month, day by day. What I found made everything worse. And then, suddenly, it made everything better. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my dining room table in my primary residence, my laptop open, watching 8 months of security footage from my vacation home. What I saw made me sick, and then angry, and then absolutely determined. The first recording I pulled up was from 6 months ago, the weekend Andrea was supposed to check on the house. She arrived Saturday morning, walked through the rooms, watered the plants like I had asked. So far, so normal. Then Derek showed up. They spent the night drinking and watching movies. Fine, I thought. She brought her boyfriend. Whatever. But Sunday came, and they didn't leave. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, days turned into weeks. By the end of the first month, they had fully moved in. I watched as they brought suitcases, boxes, furniture. Derek carried in a television. Andrea hung pictures on the walls. My pictures, the family photos I had carefully selected, came down. Her artwork went up. I kept watching. In week 6, there was a party, not a small gathering. Dozens of people, strangers in my home, drinking, smoking. Based on some of their behavior, stumbling and paranoid, I suspected it wasn't just cigarettes. The footage showed someone spilling red wine on my cream carpet. Another person broke a lamp. No one cleaned it up. Andrea and Derek didn't seem to care. They were laughing, drinking, acting like they owned the place. I moved forward to 3 months ago. The footage showed Andrea standing in the living room, staring at the walls. Then she started ripping off the wallpaper. Not carefully, not professionally. She was yanking it down in chunks, laughing while she did it. Derek was filming her on his phone. "This beige is so depressing," she said to the camera. "Time for an upgrade. And the best part? Mary's paying for it." They both laughed. The audio was clear. Crystal clear. I saved that clip. The next footage showed Andrea removing my belongings. My wine collection from the rack in the dining room, bottles I had been collecting for years. She and Derek drank some, put others in boxes. My jewelry box from the bedroom dresser. She went through it, took what she wanted, put the rest in a garbage bag. My grandmother's necklace, gone. Electronics, decorative items, books, all boxed up and taken to the garage. I found footage of them stealing from me. Actual theft recorded in high definition. Then I found the most damaging evidence. 1 week ago, just days before I came home, Andrea and Derek were sitting at the kitchen table. The same table where I had confronted them this morning. "What if she doesn't pay?" Derek asked. Andrea waved her hand dismissively. "She will. Mary's a pushover. She always has been. I'll tell her she owes me, show her the receipts, and she'll write me a check just to avoid conflict. But what if she doesn't? Then we claim tenant rights. I've been researching it. We've been here 8 months. I've been paying the utilities in my name, getting mail here, everything. Legally, she can't just kick us out. We'll make her go through a formal eviction. That takes months. By the time she gets us out, we'll have lived here free for almost a year." Derek grinned. "That's smart." "I know, and the wallpaper thing is genius. Even if she fights me on it, even if she tries to evict us, I can tie her up in small claims court. Make it expensive and annoying for her. She'll eventually just give up. Mary always gives up. What about the stuff we took? The wine and jewelry? She can't prove anything. We'll say it was never there. Or that she gave it to me. Who's a judge going to believe? Her sister, who she graciously let stay at her house, or her, trying to be vindictive over some wine?" They laughed together, toasting with glasses of my stolen wine. I watched that clip 3 times. They had planned this. All of it. The squatting, the wallpaper scam, the theft. Andrea had deliberately exploited my trust, invaded my home, and was now trying to manipulate the legal system to rob me. My hands were shaking, but not from fear anymore. From fury. I spent the rest of the night organizing the footage. I created a timeline. Clips of the initial move-in, the parties, the drug use, the property destruction, the theft, the conspiracy conversation. I documented everything with timestamps and descriptions. I burned it all to a drive and made multiple copies. At 8 in the morning, I was back at the police station. This time, I wasn't asking them to remove a guest. I was filing formal criminal complaints. Theft, property destruction, fraud, criminal trespass. I had evidence for all of it. The officer who took my report was the same one who had responded yesterday. When he saw the footage, his entire demeanor changed. He called over a detective. They watched the conspiracy conversation twice. "This changes things," the detective said. "This isn't a landlord-tenant dispute. These are criminal acts. We'll open an investigation. Can we keep copies of this footage?" "I have multiple copies," I said. "Take whatever you need." I filed formal charges. Then I went straight back to Patricia's office. She cleared her schedule when I called and said I had new evidence. I showed her everything. Patricia's eyes widened as she watched. "This is incredible. This proves she never had legitimate tenancy. She was squatting with full knowledge it was unauthorized. And the conspiracy conversation about manipulating you? A judge is going to hate this. Can we get her out now? Today? We can file for an emergency restraining order and immediate eviction based on criminal trespass and fraud. With this evidence, I think we have a strong case. Let me make some calls." By noon, we had filed emergency motions with the court. Patricia attached the security footage, the police reports, everything. We requested an emergency hearing, which was granted for the following morning. I felt hope for the first time since this nightmare began. I had proof. Andrea had confessed her scheme on camera. There was no way she could talk her way out of this. I went home to my primary residence, exhausted but relieved. I made dinner, took a shower, tried to relax. Around 8 that evening, my phone rang. Andrea, you called the cops on me? She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. The police came to the house. They're investigating me. What did you tell them? I told them the truth. That you've been squatting in my home, you stole from me, you destroyed my property, and you conspired to defraud me, all of which I have on video. There was a long silence. When Andrea spoke again, her voice had changed from anger to panic. Video? What video? Security cameras. I have 8 months of footage. Every party, every stolen bottle of wine, every piece of jewelry you took. And my favorite part, the conversation where you and Derek planned this whole scam, where you called me a pushover and laughed about manipulating me. You can't use that. That's private. You recorded me without my knowledge. That's illegal surveillance. Actually, it's not. The cameras are clearly visible, installed legally on my own property, with notices posted about surveillance. Everything is admissible. The police already have copies. So does Milavier. Another long silence. Then Andrea's voice got desperate. Mary, please. I'm your sister. You can't do this to me. We can work this out. We could have worked this out 6 months ago if you had been honest. Now it's too late. You made your choice. If you don't drop this, I'll make sure the whole family knows what kind of person you are. Mom and Dad will never forgive you for calling the police on your own sister. You'll be the villain. Is that what you want? I want you out of my house. That's what I want. And I want you to face consequences for what you've done. You're going to regret this, she hissed. Then she hung up. Within an hour, my phone started exploding. Texts, calls, voicemails. My mother, my father, my brother, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone was messaging me, and none of it was supportive. Andrea had already started her campaign. And I was about to learn that sometimes the legal battle is easier than the family one. By the time I woke up the next morning, I had 63 missed calls and over 100 text messages. I made the mistake of reading them while I drank my coffee. My mother. How could you do this to your sister? She was just trying to help you by watching your house and you're having her arrested. I'm ashamed of you. My father. Andrea called crying. She said you called the police because she redecorated. This is not how we raised you. Family doesn't betray family. My brother, Jason. Seriously, Mary? Cops? Over wallpaper? You've always been controlling, but this is extreme. Andrea is going through a rough time and this is how you treat her? Aunt Linda, I always thought you were the mature one, but I guess I was wrong. Your sister needed help and you turned on her. Shameful. Cousin after cousin echoed the same sentiment. I was cruel. I was heartless. I was attacking poor Andrea over a simple misunderstanding. No one asked for my side of the story. No one wanted to hear about the squatting, the theft, the conspiracy. Andrea had gotten to them first and painted herself as the victim perfectly. I tried to respond to my mother. I called her and she answered on the first ring. Mom, please listen to me. Andrea wasn't just watching the house. She moved in without permission for 8 months. She brought her boyfriend. They threw parties, stole from me, destroyed my property on purpose. I have video evidence of all of it. Andrea told me you would make up lies. I didn't believe her, but here you are, your own sister. I'm not making anything up. I can show you the security footage. You can see for yourself. I don't need to see some edited video you put together to justify your cruelty. Andrea made a mistake with the wallpaper. She was trying to do something nice. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. Mom, she stole Grandma's necklace? The one you gave me? She stole my wine collection. She planned this entire thing as a scam. Now you're accusing her of being a thief? Your own sister? Mary, I think you need to talk to someone. This obsession with punishing Andrea isn't healthy. Maybe you're stressed from work. Maybe you need therapy. But this has to stop. I'm not the one who needs therapy. Andrea committed multiple crimes. Family does not call the police on family. Ever. I don't care what happened. You work it out privately. You don't try to get your sister arrested. Your father and I are horrified by your behavior. So you're taking her side. There are no sides, there's family. And right now, you're not acting like family. She hung up. I tried calling my father, but he didn't answer. I sent him a text with a link to the security footage. He responded 3 minutes later, "I won't watch propaganda against my own daughter." Fix this, Mary. My brother Jason called me and I foolishly answered. You need to drop whatever charges you filed, he said without preamble. Andrea's a mess. She's terrified. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. You're tearing this family apart. Jason, did Andrea tell you she's been living in my vacation house for 8 months without permission? That she and her boyfriend have been squatting there, throwing parties, stealing my belongings? She said she was house-sitting and you suddenly decided to be vindictive about it. That she made one mistake with the wallpaper and you went nuclear. That's not what happened. At all. I have 8 months of security footage showing exactly what happened. I can send it to you. I don't want to see it. You know why? Because it doesn't matter. She's your sister. You protect family. You don't try to destroy them. What kind of person does that? The kind of person whose home was invaded and whose belongings were stolen. God, listen to yourself. You sound paranoid. Andrea's right, you do need therapy. Maybe you're having some kind of breakdown. But I'm telling you right now, if you don't drop this, you're going to lose this whole family. Mom and Dad are done with you. I'm done with you. Everyone is on Andrea's side because you're being insane. I'm being insane? She committed fraud. No, she made a bad choice with wallpaper. You're the one trying to get her arrested. That's crazy person behavior, Mary. Get help. He hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling like I was losing my mind. Was I crazy? Was I overreacting? Then I watched the security footage again. Andrea and Derek laughing about manipulating me. Stealing my grandmother's necklace. Planning to exploit the legal system. Calling me a pushover. No, I wasn't crazy. I was right. And my family had chosen to believe Andrea's lies rather than hear the truth. By midday, I had been removed from 3 family group chats. My cousin posted in a family social media group that I was going through something and everyone should be patient with me. Someone else suggested I might be having mental health issues and needed intervention. I was being gaslit by my entire family. Then I made another mistake. I checked Andrea's social media. She had posted a long, emotional status update. My heart is broken today. My older sister, who I love dearly, is trying to have me arrested because I redecorated her vacation home while house-sitting. I was trying to do something nice, to surprise her with beautiful new wallpaper. Instead, she called the police on me. She's claiming I stole from her and destroyed her property. None of it is true. I'm terrified and heartbroken. I never thought my own family would turn on me like this. Please keep me in your thoughts. I don't know what I did to deserve this treatment, but I'm praying she'll come to her senses before she ruins both our lives. Number: family betrayal. Number: heartbroken. Number: false accusations. The post had over 300 likes and 100 comments. I scrolled through them, feeling sicker with each one. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Family can be the worst sometimes. This is awful. Prayers for you. Your sister sounds toxic. You deserve better. And then I saw comments from people I knew, my friends, or people I thought were friends. Mary, I can't believe you would do this. I'm so disappointed. I've always known you were controlling, but this is next level. Andrea deserves better. Calling the cops on your own sister? That's unforgivable. I wanted to defend myself, to post my own explanation, to share the security footage publicly. But Patricia had explicitly told me not to post anything on social media. It could damage the court case. So I had to sit there and watch my reputation be destroyed in real time. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I answered. Is this Mary? A professional voice. Female. Yes. This is Jennifer from Cascade Bank. I'm calling about the overdue utility bills associated with your vacation property on Lakeside Drive. The account is significantly past due and has been sent to collections. Your credit score has been impacted. We need to arrange payment immediately to prevent further damage. My stomach dropped. What bills? I have autopay set up. The autopay was canceled 8 months ago. Since then, the bills have been accumulating. You currently owe $5,872 for electric, water, and gas services. That's impossible. I can email you the statements if you'd like, but the amount is accurate. The account is in your name, so you're responsible for the debt regardless of who was using the services. I closed my eyes. Of course. Andrea and Derek had been living there, running up massive utility bills in my name. 8 months of heating, cooling, water, electricity for 2 people. And the bills had gone unpaid, destroying my credit. I'll need to review the statements before I pay anything. I understand, but I need to inform you that if payment isn't received within 10 business days, the account will be forwarded to legal collections and additional fees will apply. Your credit score has already dropped by 98 points. 98 points. Years of careful financial management destroyed. After she emailed the statements, I spent an hour reviewing them. The usage was astronomical. Electric bills 3 times higher than normal. Water bills showing constant heavy use. Gas heating running constantly, even in summer. They had lived there like they owned it, with no regard for cost because they knew I would have to pay $5,872 in utilities. On top of the repairs I would need to make. On top of the legal fees, I was already paying Patricia. I called Patricia and explained the situation. "Pay the bills," she said. "I know it's unfair, but you need to protect your credit. Document everything. We'll add it to the damages we're claiming against Andrea. You might never collect, but at least it'll be on record. This is costing me a fortune." "I know, but we're doing this the right way. The court hearing is tomorrow morning. Let's focus on getting her out of your house first. Then we can worry about the money." That afternoon, I received another notice. This one from my homeowner's insurance company. They had been informed of major unauthorized renovations at my vacation property. Since I had failed to notify them of the modifications, my policy might be voided. If there was any damage related to the wallpaper installation or removal, I wouldn't be covered. I called the insurance company, spent 40 minutes on hold, finally explained that I had not authorized any renovations, that someone had been squatting in my home. The representative was sympathetic but firm. "You'll need to file a police report and provide documentation that the modifications were unauthorized. Without that, we have to treat this as your responsibility. If there's any structural damage from the wallpaper installation, you won't be covered unless you can prove you weren't negligent." Another hoop to jump through, another complication, another cost. By evening, I was emotionally exhausted. I had spent over $8,000 in legal fees so far. I owed almost $6,000 in utilities. My credit score was trashed. My family had disowned me. My friends were questioning my character, and Andrea was living in my house, probably laughing about it. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, trying not to cry. My phone buzzed with another notification. Another family member had posted something about supporting Andrea through this difficult time. I turned off my phone and sat in silence. Tomorrow was the emergency court hearing. Tomorrow, I would present all my evidence to a judge. Tomorrow, Andrea would have to answer for what she had done. Tomorrow, I would start fighting back, and I wouldn't stop until this was over. The courtroom was cold and sterile, all pale wood and fluorescent lights. I sat next to Patricia at the plaintiff's table, my folder of evidence in front of me. Across the aisle, Andrea sat with her lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he charged $300 an hour. Where she got the money for that, I didn't know. Probably my stolen jewelry. Andrea wouldn't look at me. She kept her eyes forward, her expression carefully crafted to look vulnerable and frightened. She was wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup, playing the part of the victimized younger sister perfectly. The judge entered. The Honorable Robert Chen, according to the nameplate on his bench. He was in his 60s, with graying hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked tired, like he had seen every kind of case 100 times. This is an emergency hearing regarding property at 2415 Lakeside Drive, he began. Petitioner Mary Grant is seeking immediate eviction of respondent Andrea Grant and Derek Morrison. Let's hear from the petitioner first. Patricia stood. She was calm, professional, thorough. She explained the situation clearly. I had asked Andrea to check on the house for one weekend. Andrea had instead moved in without permission for 8 months. She had brought her boyfriend. They had destroyed property, stolen belongings, and refused to leave. Most importantly, we had security footage proving all of it. She presented the evidence methodically. Photos of the destroyed wallpaper, receipts showing the utility bills in my name that I never authorized, the police reports documenting theft, and then the security footage. The judge watched in silence. First, the clips of Andrea and Derek moving in, bringing boxes and furniture, clearly establishing permanent residence. Then the party footage showing dozens of people in my home, property being damaged. Then Andrea ripping down the wallpaper while laughing and saying I would pay for it. Finally, the conspiracy conversation. Andrea and Derek at the kitchen table, discussing their plan to manipulate me, claim tenant rights, tie me up in court, and live there free for as long as possible. Mary's a pushover. She always gives up. The judge's expression hardened as he watched. When the footage ended, Patricia spoke. Your Honor, this is not a landlord-tenant dispute. This is criminal trespass, theft, and fraud. The respondent deliberately exploited the petitioner's trust, occupied her property without permission, caused extensive damage, and conspired to manipulate the legal system. We're requesting immediate eviction and full restitution for damages. Andrea's lawyer stood. His name was Richard Tanner, and he immediately tried to spin the situation. Your Honor, my client admits there were miscommunications and perhaps some poor judgment regarding the wallpaper. However, Miss Grant was invited to the property initially. She was performing a service for her sister. Over time, the arrangement evolved. Miss Grant believed she had her sister's permission to stay, especially since Miss Mary Grant never explicitly told her to leave. As for the wallpaper, my client was genuinely trying to improve the property. The cost she quoted was accurate and represented real expenses she incurred. Did you watch the same footage I just watched? The judge interrupted. Where your client explicitly states she knows her sister doesn't know she's living there? Where she laughs about manipulating her? Where she calls her a pushover and discusses a scheme to exploit the legal system? Tanner faltered. Your Honor, that conversation was taken out of context. My client was venting to her boyfriend. People say things in private that sound worse than they mean. Counselor, she admitted on camera to squatting, planning fraud, and theft. There's no context that makes that acceptable. The judge looked at Andrea directly. Miss Grant, do you have anything to say for yourself? Andrea stood, and I could see her hands shaking. She had tears in her eyes. Real tears or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I know that now. I should have communicated better with my sister. The wallpaper was wrong. I see that, but I never meant to hurt her. She's my sister and I love her. I was going through a difficult time. I lost my job, lost my apartment. I didn't know where to go. Mary had this beautiful house that was sitting empty, and I thought I could stay a little while until I got back on my feet. It was wrong not to ask properly, but I never intended any harm. She was good. I had to give her that. She looked genuinely remorseful, genuinely vulnerable. The judge wasn't buying it. Miss Grant, you were recorded on video discussing a deliberate scheme to defraud your sister. You stole her belongings. You threw parties in her home. You destroyed her property intentionally. None of that sounds like someone going through a hard time. That sounds like someone taking advantage. I know how it looks, Andrea said, her voice breaking. But that conversation was just. I was angry. Mary came home and immediately threatened me. She didn't ask what was going on, didn't try to understand. She just called the police. I was hurt, and I said things I didn't mean. The conversation happened before your sister came home, the judge said dryly, checking the timestamp. Try again. Andrea's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, regardless of the circumstances, A formal eviction process should still be followed. My client has been residing there for 8 months. She has established residency. Even if the initial entry was unauthorized, at this point, proper legal procedures should be observed. Normally, I would agree, the judge said. But this case involves clear criminal activity. The video evidence shows deliberate trespass, theft, and fraud. In these circumstances, I'm issuing an immediate eviction order. Miss Grant and Mr. Morrison have 72 hours to vacate the property and remove all personal belongings. If they fail to comply, the sheriff will remove them forcibly. Relief flooded through me. I felt Patricia squeeze my hand under the table. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm ordering Miss Grant to pay restitution for the utility bills, the cost of wallpaper removal and repair, and the replacement value of all stolen items. A full accounting will be provided to the court within 30 days. This matter is also being referred to the district attorney for potential criminal prosecution. Andrea was crying now, real ugly crying. Her lawyer looked defeated. Derek, who had been sitting in the gallery, got up and walked out. As we left the courtroom, Andrea tried to approach me. Patricia stepped between us. Don't, Patricia said firmly. You have 72 hours. Use them. Andrea's face twisted with rage. This isn't over, Mary. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll make you regret this. That sounds like a threat, Miss Grant, Patricia said calmly. Would you like me to inform the judge? Andrea turned and stalked away, her lawyer hurrying after her. I should have felt victorious. I had won. The judge had ruled in my favor completely. Andrea had to leave. She had to pay restitution. But something in her final words bothered me, the look in her eyes. She wasn't defeated, she was furious. And I had learned the hard way that Andrea was dangerous when she was backed into a corner. Don't worry about her, Patricia said, reading my expression. She's all talk. You won. It's over. I wanted to believe that. I really did. 3 days later, I drove to the vacation home to check on it before Andrea's deadline to vacate. I wanted to make sure she was actually leaving, that she wasn't planning to ignore the court order. The house was empty. Andrea's car was gone. Derek's truck was gone. I walked inside, relieved, ready to finally reclaim my space. Then I saw what they had done. The wallpaper wasn't just still up. It had been ripped down in strips, hanging off the walls in shreds. But that wasn't the worst part. The walls underneath were destroyed. Huge holes punched through the drywall. Long gouges where something heavy had been dragged across the surface. In the living room, obscenities were spray-painted across the bare wall in black paint. The kitchen cabinets had been pulled off the walls. They hung at angles, doors ripped off, hardware missing. The countertop was cracked. The sink had been deliberately clogged and left running, flooding the floor. Water damage spread across the hardwood, warping the boards. In the bathroom, every mirror was smashed. Glass covered the floor. The toilet was cracked, also deliberately left running. More flooding. The bedroom was the worst. My mattress had been slashed, stuffing pulled out and scattered. Paint was thrown across the walls. My closet had been emptied, and what few belongings they had left behind were destroyed or defaced. Carpet was stained with bleach in huge splotches. Windows were cracked, not shattered, but damaged enough to need replacement. Light fixtures had been ripped from the ceiling, leaving exposed wires. Every single room had been systematically destroyed. I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by devastation, and felt something break inside me. This wasn't just property damage. This was malicious. This was revenge. This was Andrea's final message. If she couldn't have it, she would make sure I couldn't either. I called the police, took photos of everything, filed another report. The officers who responded looked at the damage and whistled. This is bad, one said. Easily $30,000–$40,000 in damage. At least, I said numbly. They'll add this to the existing charges. With the video evidence and the court order they violated, they're looking at serious jail time. Jail time. Criminal charges. It should have made me feel better. It didn't. I called a contractor, then another, then a third. I got estimates that evening. The lowest was $42,000. The highest was $58,000. Full restoration, repairs, replacement of everything destroyed. I sat on the front porch, unable to go back inside, and cried. I had spent over $15,000 in legal fees, $6,000 in utilities. Now I was facing another $45,000 in repairs, over $65,000. Because of wallpaper. Because I had trusted my sister. That evening, my lawyer called. I have bad news, Patricia said. Andrea filed for bankruptcy this morning. Chapter 7. She's claiming she has no assets and overwhelming debt. What does that mean? It means even if you win a judgment against her for all the damages, you'll likely never collect a penny. The restitution order from the court is meaningless if she has no money or assets to seize. I'm sorry, Mary. I hung up and sat in silence. I had won in court. I had evidence. I had justice on my side. And I would still lose everything. Andrea would face criminal charges, possibly jail time, but I would be left with a destroyed house, a ruined credit score, tens of thousands in debt, and no way to recover any of it. The legal system had failed me. Justice had failed me. And Andrea was probably somewhere laughing, knowing that even in defeat, she had still destroyed me financially. I went home and didn't leave my house for 3 days. I called in sick to work. I didn't answer calls or texts. I just sat in my living room, staring at nothing, trying to process how my entire life had fallen apart. My vacation home, my sanctuary, was uninhabitable. My family had disowned me. My friends believed I was cruel. My credit was ruined. I was drowning in debt. And the person responsible would never pay for any of it. Andrea had won. She had destroyed me. And there was nothing I could do about it. 3 weeks passed in a blur. I took out a second mortgage on my primary home to pay for the repairs to the vacation house. The contractors started work. The estimate came back higher than expected. $47,000 for full restoration. Every penny I had saved gone. Years of careful financial planning destroyed. I went back to work but barely functioned. I made mistakes in meetings, missed deadlines. My boss pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. I lied and said yes. What was I supposed to say? That my life had imploded? That I couldn't sleep? That every time my phone rang, I jumped? Because Andrea hadn't stopped. She was facing felony charges now. Grand theft, vandalism, fraud, criminal conspiracy. Derek had been charged as an accomplice. Their trial was set for 3 months out. The prosecutor assigned to the case, a woman named Lisa Ramone, called me regularly with updates. She was confident they had a strong case. The security footage was damning. The property damage was documented. Multiple witnesses had come forward, neighbors who had seen the parties, who had complaints about noise and suspicious activity. With evidence this strong, they'll likely take a plea deal, Lisa told me. Andrea's looking at 2 to 5 years. Derek could get less if he testifies against her. Prison. My sister was going to prison. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. But the criminal case wasn't my biggest problem. The ongoing harassment was. It started small. My car, parked in my driveway, was keyed one night. Long, deep scratches down both sides. I filed a police report. My security camera, newly installed after everything that happened, caught a figure in a dark hoodie approaching my car around 2 in the morning. The footage was too grainy to identify them. But I knew. It was Derek. Maybe Andrea, maybe both. 2 days later, someone slashed my tires. All 4 of them. Another police report. Another unusable security footage. Another $300 to replace the tires. Then it escalated. I started getting disturbing phone calls from blocked numbers. Heavy breathing. Hang-ups. Sometimes a distorted voice saying things like, "You should have paid the money," or "This isn't over." I changed my number. Somehow they got the new one within a week. Packages appeared on my doorstep. When I opened them, they contained dead flowers, broken glass. Once, a dead rat. I was too afraid to open packages anymore. My work email was hacked. Hundreds of spam emails were sent from my account to colleagues and clients. I had to involve IT, explain what was happening. My boss looked concerned. "Maybe you should take some time off," she suggested gently. "This situation is clearly affecting you." I couldn't afford to take time off. I needed every paycheck to pay for the repairs, the legal fees, the mortgage. Then one evening there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Derek standing on my porch. My blood ran cold. I didn't open the door. "Mary, I know you're in there," he called out. His voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. "We need to talk." "Go away or I'm calling the police," I shouted through the door. "You don't want to do that. Just hear me out. I have nothing to say to you." He leaned closer to the door. I could see his face through the peephole, distorted by the fisheye lens. "Andrea's life is ruined because of you. She's looking at prison. Did you know she's been getting death threats online? People have been showing up at her apartment. Someone threw a brick through her window. All because you had to play the victim. She destroyed my house. She stole from me. She's facing consequences for her actions. You had a choice. You could have just paid the money and moved on. Instead, you decided to destroy her life. So now I'm giving you a choice. Drop the charges. Tell the prosecutor you don't want to press charges. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding." "No, I'm trying to be reasonable here, Mary, but if you don't drop the charges, things are going to get worse for you. A lot worse. You think a keyed car is bad? You think some phone calls are scary? You have no idea what we're capable of. That's a threat. I'm recording this conversation." I wasn't, but I wanted him to think I was. He laughed. "No, it's not a threat. It's a promise. You want to keep living in fear? Keep looking over your shoulder? Keep wondering when something bad is going to happen? Then keep pushing this. But if you're smart, you'll drop the charges, accept that Andrea made a mistake, and move on with your life. Get off my property. Think about it, Mary. You still have a chance to make this right." He walked away. I immediately called the police. They came, took my statement, added it to Derek's file. They said they would increase patrols in my neighborhood. They suggested I get a restraining order. "That's just a piece of paper," I said. "It won't stop him." "No, but it means if he violates it, we can arrest him immediately. It gives us more leverage." I filed for a restraining order the next day. The judge granted it. Derek was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. He was served with the order 2 days later. That night, someone egged my house. Front door, windows, siding, eggs everywhere. Dried and crusted by the time I found it in the morning. I spent 2 hours cleaning it off before work. I stopped sleeping. Every noise woke me. Every car passing my house made me jump. I installed more security cameras, motion sensor lights, an alarm system. I was turning my home into a fortress, and it still didn't feel safe. My therapist told me I was developing post-traumatic stress disorder. I was having panic attacks, couldn't concentrate, lost weight because I couldn't eat. My hair was falling out from stress. Andrea had taken my home, my money, my family, my peace of mind, and now she was taking my health. I felt like I was drowning. Every day was a battle just to function. Work, therapy, police reports, court dates, contractor meetings, bills. I was buried under it all. And the worst part? Andrea was winning. Even facing prison, even with her life falling apart, she was still destroying mine. One night, I sat in my bedroom with all the lights off, too exhausted to move. I looked at the stack of bills on my nightstand, the estimates for the vacation home repairs, the legal fees, the credit card statements. I had spent over $65,000 fighting this. My savings were gone. I was in debt. My credit score had dropped from 780 to 650. For what? Justice? I didn't feel justice. I felt destroyed. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mary Grant?" A professional voice. This is Detective Shaw with the Fraud Division. We've been investigating your case. I have some information that might interest you. I sat up. What kind of information? We've been looking into Andrea Grant's finances, trying to trace the stolen property. We found something. She's been running a scam for over 2 years. You're not the first person she's done this to. My stomach dropped. What? She's done this exact scheme 3 times before. Found people with vacation homes or empty properties, moved in without permission, caused damage, tried to extort money. She has a pattern. We've found 2 other victims willing to testify. This case is bigger than we originally thought. She's done this before? I felt sick. Yes. And we have evidence connecting Derek to all of it. He's been her accomplice from the beginning. This is organized fraud. The charges are being upgraded. We're looking at 10 to 15 years for her now, not 2 to 5. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt worse. My own sister was a career criminal, and I had been just another mark. There's something else, Detective Shaw said. We've traced the harassment. The phone calls, the vandalism. Derek made a mistake. He used a burner phone that we traced back to a purchase on his credit card. We have enough to add stalking and witness intimidation to his charges. We're arresting him tonight. Tonight? Yes. We'll need you to come in tomorrow to give a formal statement, but I wanted you to know, this is almost over. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Almost over. The words echoed in my head. But nothing felt over. It felt like it would never be over. Even if Andrea went to prison, even if Derek was locked up, the damage was done. My house was destroyed. My family was gone. My money was gone. My sense of safety was gone. I had won every legal battle and lost everything that mattered. I looked around my bedroom, at the security system panel glowing on the wall, at the pepper spray I kept on my nightstand, at the baseball bat propped in the corner. This was what my life had become. Fear and paranoia and constant vigilance. I thought about giving up. About just walking away from everything. Selling both houses, moving somewhere new, starting over where no one knew me or this story. Then I looked at the security footage again. The clip of Andrea laughing while destroying my wallpaper. Mary's a pushover. She always gives up. Something hard and angry solidified in my chest. I wasn't a pushover. I wasn't going to give up. Andrea had counted on me breaking. She had counted on me being too weak to fight back. She was wrong. I picked up my phone and called Lisa Ramon, the prosecutor. I want to testify, I said when she answered. At the trial, I want to tell my story in court. I want a jury to hear what they did. You don't have to testify if you don't want to. We have enough evidence without it. I know, but I want to. They took everything from me. I'm taking my power back. There was a pause. Then Lisa said, "Okay, I'll put you on the witness list." The trial's in 3 months. Are you sure you're ready for this? No, I said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. After I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Determination, not hope exactly, but resolve. I was going to see this through to the end. I was going to look Andrea in the eye in a courtroom and tell the truth. I was going to watch her face consequences for what she had done. And then, maybe then, I could start to heal. 3 months. I had 3 months to hold myself together. 3 months to prepare. 3 months to become strong enough to face my sister and not fall apart. I could do this. I had to do this. Because if I didn't, Andrea would have won, and I refused to let her win. The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the hallway outside. The case had gotten media attention after the investigation revealed Andrea's pattern of fraud. Serial squatter sister was the headline in the local paper. My private nightmare had become public spectacle. I sat in the witness waiting area, my hands clasped tightly in my lap to keep them from shaking. Patricia sat beside me, a steady presence. Lisa Ramon came in to brief me one more time. "The defense is going to try to make you seem vindictive," she said. "They'll paint Andrea as a troubled younger sister, and you as the cruel older sibling who refused to show mercy. Don't let them rattle you. Just tell the truth. Answer the questions directly. You've got this. I nodded, not trusting my voice. When they called my name, I walked into the courtroom on legs that felt like they might give out. The jury box was full, 12 faces watching me. Andrea sat at the defense table in a conservative blue dress, her hair pulled back, looking small and vulnerable. Derek sat beside her, his expression hard. I was sworn in, sat down. The microphone in front of me picked up every breath. Lisa started with easy questions. My name, my occupation, my relationship to Andrea. Then she moved into the story. How I had asked Andrea to check on my vacation home. How I came back 6 months later to find everything destroyed. How I discovered she had been living there for 8 months. Can you describe what you felt when you saw your home? Lisa asked. Violated, I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. It felt like a violation. Like someone had come into my private space and destroyed something sacred. That house was my sanctuary. My escape. And she turned it into something unrecognizable. Did you give her permission to live there? No, never. I asked her to check on it for 1 weekend. That was all. Lisa played the security footage for the jury. All of it. The move-in, the parties, the theft, the destruction, and finally, the conspiracy conversation. Andrea and Derek at the kitchen table, laughing about manipulating me, calling me a pushover, planning to exploit the legal system. I watched the jury's faces as they watched, saw their expressions harden, saw them glance at Andrea with disgust. Then it was the defense attorney's turn. Richard Tanner approached me with a sympathetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. Miss Grant, you and your sister had a close relationship before this, didn't you? We did. And you wanted to help her when she was struggling, correct? I wanted to help her by letting her check on my house for a weekend, not by giving her free housing for 8 months. But you never explicitly told her to leave, did you? I didn't know she was there. She lied to me. Isn't it true that you have a history of being controlling with your family members? No. Isn't it true that your family has expressed concern about your treatment of Andrea? I took a breath. Lisa had warned me about this. My family believed Andrea's lies because she got to them first. When I showed them evidence of what really happened, most of them refused to look at it. That doesn't make me controlling. That makes them complicit. Tanner's smile tightened. You make your sister sound like a criminal mastermind. But isn't it possible this was just a misunderstanding that got out of hand? No. I watched 8 months of security footage. I saw her plan this. I heard her admit to planning this. There was no misunderstanding. You could have just paid her the money she asked for. $4,500. Wouldn't that have been easier than all of this? Easier for who? For her? So she could get away with it? So she could do it to someone else? She had done this 3 times before. I learned that during the investigation. If I had just paid her, she would have kept doing it. Someone had to stop her. So this is about revenge? No, this is about justice. Tanner tried a few more angles, but I held firm. When I stepped down, I felt exhausted but not broken. I had told the truth. Now it was up to the jury. The trial lasted 6 days. Other witnesses testified. The neighbors who had seen the parties. The contractors who assessed the damage. Detective Shaw explained the larger pattern of fraud. And then, unexpectedly, Derek took the stand. He had made a deal with the prosecution. Testify against Andrea, get a reduced sentence. He sat in the witness box and laid everything out. It was Andrea's idea from the beginning, he said. She told me she had found this empty vacation house, said her sister was rich and wouldn't even notice if we stayed there. We moved in and she started planning the wallpaper scam. She said her sister was a pushover, that she would pay anything to avoid conflict. When it didn't work, she got angry. Told me we should destroy the place on our way out, make sure Mary knew she couldn't win. Andrea's face was white as she listened to her boyfriend, her partner, betray her completely. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the 4 women stood. On the count of grand theft, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of vandalism, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of criminal conspiracy, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all counts. Andrea's face crumpled. She started crying, real tears this time. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. She turned and looked at me, and for a moment, I saw real emotion in her eyes. Hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. Good. At least she was finally showing me the truth. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge was the same one from the eviction hearing. He remembered the case. "Miss Grant," he said, looking down at Andrea, "you have shown a pattern of behavior that demonstrates a complete disregard for other people's rights and property. You exploited your own family member. You destroyed her home out of spite. You attempted to manipulate the legal system. And the evidence shows you've done this before. You are a danger to society and need to be removed from it." He sentenced her to 7 years in prison with 5 years of probation after release. Derek got 3 years plus probation for his cooperation. 7 years. Andrea would be in her mid-30s when she got out. The courtroom was silent except for her sobbing. As they led her away in handcuffs, she screamed at me, "I hope you're happy. You destroyed my life. Your own sister. I'll never forgive you for this." I watched her go and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just exhaustion. Outside the courthouse, reporters tried to get a statement. I pushed past them. Patricia guided me to her car. "You did it," she said. "It's over." "Is it?" I asked, because it doesn't feel over. The months that followed were slow and painful. The vacation home was finally finished with repairs. $47,000 later, it looked beautiful. Better than before, actually. New everything, fresh paint, hardwood floors refinished. It was a completely new space, but I couldn't enjoy it. Every time I walked in, I saw the destruction. I heard Andrea's laugh. I felt the violation all over again. I put it on the market and sold it within a month. I couldn't keep it. Too many bad memories. I used the money to pay off the second mortgage and the remaining legal fees. After everything, I broke even. 7 years of work destroyed, and I broke even. My family situation slowly, painfully changed. After the trial, after the news coverage, after the evidence became public, some family members started reaching out, quietly, apologetically. My mother called 6 months after the sentencing. She cried, said she was sorry, said she should have listened. I didn't know what to say, so I mostly just listened. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly. It's not the same. It might never be the same. But it's something. My father hasn't reached out. I don't know if he will. I've made peace with that possibility. Jason, my brother, sent a text a year later. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry," I responded. "Thank you." We haven't talked beyond that. Maybe someday. Some relationships healed, others didn't. I learned that not every relationship is worth saving. That sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who refuse to see your truth. I made new friends. People who didn't know the story, who saw me as I am now, not as the victim I was. I started therapy in earnest, working through the PTSD, the anxiety, the fear. It's been 2 years now, and I still have bad days, but they're becoming less frequent. I bought a new house, smaller, in the city, with the best security system money can buy. Not because I need it, but because it helps me sleep at night. I'm learning to trust again. To feel safe again, it's a slow process. Andrea is in prison. I don't visit. I don't write. I have nothing to say to her. She sends letters sometimes, alternating between apologies and accusations. I don't read them anymore. Patricia has them forwarded to her office, filed away in case Andrea tries anything when she's released. But I don't need to see them. That chapter of my life is closed. I learned something through all of this. Something painful but important. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. Standing up for yourself is not the same as being vindictive. And sometimes, the people who should love you most are the ones who hurt you deepest. I learned that real family respects your boundaries. Real love doesn't exploit or manipulate. And when someone shows you who they really are, Believe them. Don't make excuses. Don't minimize. Believe them and act accordingly. I lost almost everything. My savings, my sanctuary, years of my life, relationships with people I loved. The financial cost was over $65,000. The emotional cost was immeasurable. But I gained something too: self-respect, strength, the knowledge that I can survive the worst and come out the other side. I stood up for myself when it would have been easier to give in. I fought back when everyone told me to let it go. I refused to be the victim Andrea thought I was. Was it worth it? I honestly don't know. Some days, I think I should have just paid the $4,500 and avoided all of this. Other days, I know that if I had, I would have lost something far more valuable than money. I would have lost myself. I got my life back by refusing to let someone else steal it. And that, in the end, was worth everything. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you loved even when it cost you everything? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? What would you have done in my situation? Would you have paid the money to make it go away, or would you have fought back no matter the cost? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you in any way, please consider hitting the like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who's struggling with their own impossible choice between family and justice. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for letting me share this painful chapter of my life. I hope it helps someone out there realize they're not alone. That standing up for yourself is never wrong, even when everyone tells you it is. Take care of yourselves, protect your peace, and remember, you are worth fighting for.